Hi, in this video I'm going to be cloning World of Warcraft. Now I've been seeing a lot of videos on YouTube where people clone video games in Unity in order to figure out how those developers did what they did. And I think it might be a really good method of learning how to do things in Unity. Now, the whole concept is very similar to life drawing, for instance, where you essentially draw from life in order to improve your skills. However, instead, we are going to be learning from existing games, and I think this is a really good method. However, I don't condone copying someone's work and posting it as your own, just so we're all clear. Now, I also want to add that I'm not going to be presenting this as though this is how you should do things. I'm only going to present this as this is how I did things because I'm not a professional and I'm not a teacher, and I just kind of want to put this out there as kind of like a, hey, check it out, this is how I did things. But I could be doing things wrong, and if you see me doing something wrong, feel free to let me know. Alright, let's begin. So let's start by opening up Unity, creating a new project, and we're going to call this WoW Clone Tut. You can call it whatever you want. Alright, so now that we're in here, I'm actually just going to create a new scene. And I'm just going to save it into the scenes. We're just going to call this test room. Then I'm just going to delete sample scene. We're going to go I don't know why close project settings. Just open that up and leave that there. Let's grab the asset store as well. And inside asset store, what we're going to do is we're going to grab ProBuilder. ProBuilder is an awesome free asset that allows you to use modeling to prototype levels quickly and easily. Okay, now inside our scene, first of all, I'm just going to go into lighting and turn off baked global illumination in mixed lighting. And then we're going to right click here in the hierarchy and add a 3D object, ProBuilder cube. Like that it's nice and centered. Alright, so now with our ProBuilder cube, we're going to come here into the inspector and press open ProBuilder. You basically have a couple options here. You have object selection, vertex selection, edge selection, and face selection. And I'm going to go into face selection, and that's basically how I'm going to do most of my editing for this basic room. Alright, so now I'm going to select all the faces, and just have a look at the back, see if you actually selected the back faces. If you didn't, and they're unselected, come over to the ProBuilder window, the ProBuilder tab, and go to Select Hidden, and make sure that is turned on so that you can select through the entire object. Now, I'm going to move this down, and watch what happens when I move it down. You see how it's moving and the lines are not moving? How it's almost like a world space texture? That's basically there to help you understand the size of your object. So for instance, if we come in and zoom in here, one of these squares is 1 meter. And if I pull this side out, I'm just going to pull it out and hold control in order to snap it. Now I can see each square represents a meter squared. So this is a really good way of making sure that you're making things to scale. So I'm just going to make this 20 by 20. Grab each of these faces. Just pull these out. Next, what I want to do is I want to select everything, go into vertex colors, and I'm just going to make them gray. Oh, okay. Not textures. I'm going to press this plus here and make sure we go into palette, open vertex editor, and then press gray. Okay. So that's just made everything gray. Next, what I want to do is I want to create a new shape. And it's just going to be a cube. it just built the cube. I'm just going to reset the transformation, select it, and I'm going to move it over past the edge here. I'm going to pull it down, and I could shrink it and make it small, but I'm just going to leave it a meter. I'm going to pull it up by 2. And then I'm going to bring this over right to the edge, and the same thing on this side. Next, I'm just going to select everything and hit Control D, and then move all that over. So now we have a wall on the other side as well. Just zoom in to see, make sure it's right there. Next, I'm going to hit Control D again, and this time I'm just going to move. Let's see, I'm going to move this back here. Select everything, move it over. Move this over. Select everything, hit Control D, and then move all that over. Alright, so now that we're done that, let's just close ProBuilder and select everything and rename it. So I'm going to select the floor and name this floor. Select all of the walls and name them wall. Let's also select everything. Turn off light max static, and let's turn off static as well. Actually, let's just leave static on, but turn off light max static. There's one other thing that we have to do to this. That's that we have to select all this. I guess all of these. And we have to change the collider, because right now it's set to mesh collider, which by default is not convex, and that could cause some issues with collisions. So we need to remove this component and add a box collider, and it should automatically fit itself, and now it's convex. In addition to that, if you need to make any changes in ProBuilder, the collider will update based on what you need it to, as long as you make sure it's a cube. So now that that's done, you may notice that this is looking kind of bright. So this is not really going to become important until later, but one of the things that I like to do is I like to change that in the project settings under player. Other settings, rendering color space, gamma to linear. And it's just going to change the color space. So now white isn't blowing out and just making everything look ridiculously bright. Alright, next let's just create an empty to hold all of this. We'll just call this one test room. And we'll drop floors and walls into test room. Come on, there we go. So let's have a look at the controls. Essentially, the base controls are A and D rotates, Q and E strafe, and W and S move forwards and backwards. Now while you're running, S slows you down. You move slower when you press S. And then in order to walk, you have to press the slash above the 8 on the numpad. And walking backwards is the same speed as walking forwards. Alright. Next, let's create our character. So first, I'm going to create an empty. I'm going to reset the transforms. I'm going to click the blue icon and call this one player. Next, I'm going to add a capsule collider. And this is just going to serve as a visual representation of our character. You can remove the collider on that as well. It's not a capsule collider, it's a capsule object. And then in scale, I'm just going to hit 0.7 and 0.7, nope, not on the y-axis, on the z-axis. and we'll move it up by 1 on the y-axis. Next, we'll go into we'll go into the capsule and we'll add a new 3D object, cube, just so that we know which direction is forward. Go ahead and remove the box collider on that. I'm just going to scale it down and move it up so it kind of sticks out the front like a little hat. Then I'm going to create a new material. Player blue, and I'm just gonna go for like a I don't know, like a baby blue color. Just gonna drop that right onto the player, and there we go. So now what we're gonna add is a character controller, and that should be it for now. I guess we just need to modify the character controller, so up by 1 on the y-axis. And the radius is going to be 0.35. Perfect. So next, we're going to go back into Assets, create a new folder for our scripts. And then inside here, we're going to create a new C# script, and we're going to call it Player Controls. And actually, let's just create another folder so that we can organize. Oop, let it load for a second. So we can put all our player stuff in there, and in addition to that we're going to create another folder and we're going to call this one Options. Inside Options we're going to create a new C# folder and we're going to call this Controls with a capital. So let's double click Controls. Open that up in Visual Studio. And then let's also open up Player Controller. So inside Controls, I'm just going to remove everything. I'm going to delete mono behavior. And then I'm going to add, in square brackets, system.serializable. And underneath here, I'm going to go public key code. And this is just going to store all of our key code values for inputs. So, for instance, if you want to change your controls, you can do that. So we're going to go forwards. Let's just do player forwards. No, that's fine. Forwards is fine. Forwards. Backwards. We'll do strafe left, strafe right, rotate left, and rotate right. And then the last one we need is walk run. Okay, we're not going to set any of them. And here we're going to add in player controls directly above that. We're going to go public controls. Oops. Controls. And that is going to be, that's basically that. So now, I'll just let it compile. Under player, we need to put our player controller component script. And under forwards, we'll go W. Under backwards, we'll go S. Under strafe left, we'll just, we need to find A here. Strafe right, oh no, that's not correct. It needs to be Q. Strafe right is going to be E. Rotate left is going to be A. And rotate right is going to be D, which we need to, 1 second, there we go. And then walk run is going to be way the hell down here. Keypad divide, that's just the number pad slash above the 8. Okay, now let's save it really quick. And that should be that for there. So next, we're going to create a new void. Oops. And this one will be called get inputs. And what this is actually going to do is it's actually going to get those keys and apply them to a new vector 2 we create called input. So here we're going to go if input dot get key, and this is going to be key code. No, not key code. This is going to be controls dot forwards, and then we're going to set inputs dot y equal to 1. Okay, so now if, and in here we're going to actually, let's just copy this for now. We're going to change that to backwards. Then we're going to go inputs dot y is equal to -1. Now, you might think that's perfect, but we need a couple other things. So the first change we need to make is we need to add another if statement here, ensuring that if forwards is being pressed while backwards is being pressed, it's actually set to input.y is set to 0, so that it just cancels itself out. And then else, it's just going to be -1. Now we have this perfectly set up so that we can cancel out movements if both of them are pressed. And then there's one final thing that we have to add to this. So if not this and not controls dot backwards, then inputs dot y has to be equal to 0. Alright, next we need to do the x-axis, and this one's going to be strafe left, strafe, and strafe right. And instead of on the y-axis, it's going to be on the x-axis. By the way, don't forget to comment on your code so that you can easily organize it and see what you're doing. Okay, so now that we have those two done, we need to make sure our turning works. So under vector2 inputs, we're going to put a float, rotation, and we're going to add, basically just going to copy all of this, make some changes along the way. This is going to be rotate, rotate, now under rotate we're going to change the controls to rotate left, and instead of inputs X and Y, we're going to change that to rotation. And actually I need to change this to, there we go. And now that we have all that done, I think it might be a good idea to just serialize these just to make sure that they're working. So now that we have that done, let's put it in the update function and double check to make sure it's working. Okay, so Q and E are not working for some reason. So I need to go in and have a look at why that's not the case. Alright, so it looks like I just copy pasted and forgot to change a couple things. Down in the nothing of strafe left and right. But now everything's working. Except, I think, so everything's coming in reverse. So what I think I'm going to do is I'm going to swap left and right on the strafe. Just so it's coming in the right direction. Positive one is going to be right, negative one is going to be left. And same thing with rotate. Alright, now let's double check. Rotating, oops, rotating, strafing, forwards, backwards. Perfect. Alright, next we need to change a couple. Next we need to add a couple things. So I'm just going to minimize get inputs. We might go back in there later. I'm going to add a new void, locomotion. We're just going to drop that into our update function so we can check it as we go on. And alright, so first we're going to create a float. We'll make it public. Public float base speed and run speed. So the base speed is basically just going to be the walk speed, and the run speed is going to be the run speed. So for now, based on figuring this out earlier, I think 0.025 F was where I had base speed at. And run speed, I'm just going to set it equal to 4. So inside locomotion, we're going to get our inputs. And the way we do that is we actually normalize it. So essentially what that means is it's basically going to take the X position and the Y position and then create a direction from 0. So I'm going to take inputs. We'll just create a new vector 2. We're going to call it input normalized. We're going to set this equal to inputs. And then we're going to apply this to a new vector 3. We're going to call velocity. So velocity will be equal to transform.forward times inputs normalized.x, nope, .y, and then we're going to add transform right times input normalized.x. And actually I'm just going to take this entire thing and I'm just going to put it inside brackets so that we can multiply that by base speed. Okay, so now where do we put the velocity? Because velocity isn't doing anything, we're just setting it. So, in order to set the in order to move the character, we actually need to get the character controller component. So character controller, we're just going to set that right at the bottom here. And then inside the start function, we're going to go controller is equal to get component character controller. Whoops. Make sure you put brackets at the end. And there's that. So now what we can do here at the bottom is go controller dot velocity, or no, controller dot move. And we're going to put inside velocity. So now let's test to see if this works. Okay, so except for the fact that the camera's in a really weird position and we need to adjust it to see, it looks like it's working. So let's just take, here's the first issue. Let's just take the main camera, just drop it to player. I'm going to reset the transforms. And now that I'm looking at the character, I think the cube should be moved over here. I'm going to take the main camera, pull it back probably to 5, then pull it up here, and then rotate it down on the x-axis. And then maybe move it forward and pull it up again. Now it should just stick to the character. And I'll make some changes later based on the camera. I just want to focus on the movement first. So now we're moving based on the way World of Warcraft has us move. And now we need to rotate the character. Essentially, you can't rotate the controller, but you can rotate the object. So what I want to do is I probably want to create a rotate speed. So public float rotate. Actually just create it right after run speed. Rotate speed, and I'm just going to set it equal to 0.1 to begin with, and then we'll go from there. So next we're going to take, rotation. So we're actually just going to go before velocity. We're going to go transform rotate. No, let's create a let's use a vector 3. So we'll go vector 3 rotation. We're going to set it equal to transform.rotation plus new vector 3. So not on the x-axis, so that's going to be 0. I think we want it on the y-axis. And that's where we're going to put rotation times rotate speed, and then 0. Oh, okay, whoops. We're going to call this character orientation. Character rotation. And instead of rotation, we'll use Euler angles. So now let's just see if this works, because this and transform rotation is equal to character rotation. Probably going to be transform Euler angles. Okay, let's see how this works. Okay, so we're rotating very slowly, but that's a positive sign, because it means we need to change the rotate speed. And I'm probably going to have to change that in the inspector as well. Right. Perfect. So I actually think that it's rotating a little bit too fast. Maybe it was rotating at the right speed actually. Okay, cool. All right, so now that that's done, let's implement some running. So under all our speeds, I'm actually going to add a new bool, and we're going to call this run. We're going to set this to true by default. I'm just going to serialize it just so I can see what's up. And then back inside get inputs, I'm actually just gonna toggle run. And then in here we're gonna go if input dot, nope, not that. Input dot get key down. And then we're gonna go controls dot run, walk run. Every single time we push this button, it's gonna toggle run. So we're gonna go run is equal to not run. So it's basically just setting it to what it's not. And then in here, we already have our run speed, right? What we're gonna do is we're gonna change base speed. So just group these together and go rotating, applying inputs, setting, moving the controller, moving controller. All right, so we're gonna change base speed. And what we're gonna do is we're gonna go running and walking. What we're gonna do is we're gonna create a new float. We're gonna call this one speed. We're gonna set this equal to base speed. We're gonna take speed and we're gonna drop it in here. All right, next we're gonna go here if run, then speed times equals run speed. And then I'm actually going to put this inside brackets, curly brackets, because I want to check another thing. So if input, we'll just go input normalized dot y is less than 0. So if I'm moving backwards, I want speed to be divided by, speed is equal to speed divided by 2. Alright, so now let's just let it compile and let's see how that goes. So, as you can see, now we have a character that moves around, rotates, and I'm pretty happy with the way it works. Now, if we hit the slash, everything changes. Cool. Thanks for watching the video. I really enjoyed making it, and I'm actually kind of looking forward to making more of these. Hopefully this is a project that I can stick to and complete, and if not, hopefully there are enough people around bugging me to complete the project so that I can stick to and complete the project. It's actually pretty interesting coming back to this game because I've been playing it pretty frequently recently since the new expansion came out, but more so just in such a fresh light because I have my game like super customized. Like you can already see in this, I've got Healbot and Deadly Boss mods, particularly with my controls. My controls are just so completely different, and it's kind of interesting seeing what World of Warcraft controls, just base World of Warcraft controls, what they look like. That was something that kind of took me by surprise. So the next video I have planned is about jumping, and probably, depending on how much content there is in the video, I might also include maybe just some simple camera work. So thanks for watching. Please like, comment, and subscribe if you want to see more of these videos, because I have a few more planned. And yeah, I'll see you next time.
Super Trooper, where'd you get that pooper? Super Trooper, where'd you get those eyes?